Dagodeshi, Dr. Lian Bighorse Gonze, Senga Gonliu. Hello, my name is Dr. Lian Bighorse, and I was raised on the San Carlos Apache Reservation, which is in southeast Arizona. I am a member of the Navajo Nation. On my mother's side, my mother is Teresa Nosey, and she was born in the Cameron area. And when Nosey is my father, he raised me in San Carlos. So, Shiji Shinasas Kasine, so the way I think and what's in my heart is the Apache way, because that's where I was raised, that's where I come from. I have 3 kids. My oldest daughter, her name is Soleil, and she's 9 years old. And I have my oldest son, his name is Philippe, and he's 7 years old. And then I have my baby, who's Azeh Hatzil, and he is 1 year old. And then my partner is Duke Romero, and they're here with me today. And for me, as a mother, being a mother is probably my greatest job. So first and foremost, I'm a mother. And I feel like that's probably been my greatest teaching and my greatest leadership role when I became a mother. It changed my whole world. It changed the whole way I think of the world and what I think is important. So what I strive for in this life is to make a better world for them. And one day I'll have grandchildren, and I want to make sure that when they come into this world that they have resources, that there's something left. Right now, we talk a lot about climate change and all the destruction that people have done to this world. And it's been rapid progress, but it's also rapid destruction. So what we strive to do as a family and as a community is preserve our culture and our identity, and reinstill those traditional ways and those traditional values in our young people. That way, they have a future. They have a future. And what I do for every day, my 9 to 5, I'm a youth resiliency program manager for Native Health. And our focus is substance abuse prevention, suicide prevention for young people. I also oversee the Tribal Practices program. In Tribal Practices, we have a traditional garden that we do. We're starting a foraging series to re-educate our young people, our families that are living in urban settings on the plants that they can eat, what's out in the desert that is edible, what you can use certain plants for. We're also starting a digital storytelling series where families can share their histories and their stories. That way it can be passed down throughout their family. A lot of our teachings are oral teachings. It's oral history passed down from generation to generation. And there's been so much untrust when someone else is telling the story, but when we give families the tools to do it, they can preserve that for their own family. We're not trying to, broadcast anywhere. We want them to preserve for their own families. In the Tribal Practices program too, I work in an urban setting, so I work here in the Phoenix, Mesa metropolitan areas. There's a big Native American population that was relocated to the cities, and then during the boarding school era, a lot of the Native American populations came to the cities as well. So what we do is we try to offer services for those urban families on things like beading, traditional moccasin making. We do regalias, and we do quilting, and we're offering all kind of different programs where the young people that have been disconnected from their communities can find that source of identity and that empowerment of who they are. For our Youth Resiliency program, we just had our second session, which is in a 4-part series on an Indigenous art series. And what we do in that series is our first one, we talked a lot about identity, about who we are as Native people. We talked about having our own design, our own way of approaching things. And we did a painting with our young people. And then in this past series, we did we painted canvas bags as well. We're doing an elk drum and an elk drum making session. We're doing where they would actually learn a song. They would make their drum, they would learn a song, and then they'd be able to showcase it to their families. And then we're also doing a Native Hope training. In that training, we focus on suicide prevention. In Native America, our young people are dying by suicide 3.5 times higher than the average youth, and that's alarming. So what we're doing is we're trying to revitalize our culture and our identity, because a lot of times our young people, they don't know who they are, and they don't know their backgrounds. So we want to make sure that we instill that in our young people. We have a Resilient Indigenous Youth Fest that we're planning. That's my baby. We're planning a Resilient Indigenous Youth Fest, and that's during Suicide Prevention Month, which is in September. We're going to have it at Mesa Park. We're going to bring Native artists, musicians, and performers to come out and be interactive with our youth. We're going to have a live art show. We'll have performances throughout the day for the community. And we just want to create fun, positive atmospheres for our young people. And so, you know, there's a lot of things that I do on the day-to-day basis, but my focus will always be culture and identity. Because for all the social ills that our people face, substance abuse, domestic violence, there's just, you know, all these endless ills that we're going through because as a result of colonization. And the solution is to take it back for culture and identity, to empower our young people with that strong sense of who they are and where they come from. As a family, when I was 13 years old, we started the Mount Graham Sacred Run. And Mount Graham is one of our sacred mountains to the Apache people. And what happened was that the Vatican and the University of Arizona, they started a telescope project on top of Mount Graham. And on that telescope project, they're looking for the heavens. And this is our sacred mountain. And we've gone to this mountain since I was a little girl. And my dad, Winsler Nosey Sr., he was arrested for praying on top of the mountain. He was arrested for trespassing. And so I've been running to this mountain. I've been praying at this mountain since I was a little girl. And every year we have an annual Mount Graham Sacred Run. And it's taking place this Friday. So this is the 28th year that we've done this run. I grew up doing the run. My children have gone there their whole life. And it's that cycle that we must continue. So this coming Thursday, we have our Holy Ground Blessing, where we pray and we bless the people. We pray for a good journey. And, you know, it's a lot different to get in a car and drive all the way up the mountain than it is to go on foot. And when you're on foot, it's a lot different. You know, you feel the heat, You feel the breeze, you know, you're thankful when that breeze comes through. But when you're in a car and you have AC, you don't understand the importance of the wind. There's all these different factors that awaken your senses when you actually have to run there. And that's that journey that, as a young person, I want my children to feel, to see. And so we're doing that journey this Friday. And then we go up to the top of the mountain. We camp there. You know, we come together as a community. We come together as a family. We enjoy what we've been blessed with. That first gift, where there's no technology, you can't get cell phone service on top of the mountain, and you go back to when it was natural, and you get to actually experience that. And so I take my children every year, and we're doing that run this weekend. Like I said, it's the 28th year that we've done it. There's been a lot of changes since I was young when we used to run. So when I was 13, you know, all throughout when I was young, when we used to run through the city of Safford, which sits at the base of the mountain, we were faced with a lot of discrimination. It's a border town, and border towns aren't so welcoming and friendly. They used to yell at us and we were children when we were running, and they would yell at us to go home and go back to the reservation, go home. Well, that in itself, that statement tells you how hidden our history is as Native people. Because had they known anything about true history, they would know that the whole area is our traditional homelands, and that reservations are actually prisons, where our people were thrown together in concentration camps and in prison. They couldn't leave. They changed the whole cycle of life for our people. So our men couldn't go out and hunt anymore, couldn't go out and gather, you know, the medicinal plants. There were so many things that we couldn't do. There were so much restrictions, and when we were imprisoned. And then they came in and they took all the children. They took all the children and they put them in boarding schools and said that that they needed to, you know, learn this whole new way of life. And lots of our people were murdered at San Carlos, at Old San Carlos at the monument. There's mass graves underneath the lake. There's a monument there now, and I'm not sure if that's on your journey, but I know Dr. Macer has taken several of you there. But you know, that monument was put up by our community, by our families, because that history needs to be taught. And the United States, the Americas, they haven't written that part of the history. They leave it out. So our young people, when they go to school to get educated, they're not taught that history. So that's one thing that I strive to do as a person that works with youth, with Native youth. I want our young people to know that true history behind what has happened and why we're on reservations and why a lot of our kids don't speak the language anymore. So that's something that we take part in. Also, since I've been young, we've faced the Oak Flat, Protect Oak Flat. I know a lot of you have been there as well. Oak Flat is just east of Superior, so it's about an hour from here, and that's a place where we have ceremony. My daughter, she's 9 years old, and I'm preparing her for her sunrise dance, her Apache sunrise dance, and she wants to have her ceremony at Oak Flat. And we're doing all we can to prepare for it. The one thing that we do worry about is that Resolution Copper is mining there. They're block cave mining. They're dewatering the whole area. And eventually, if you know, they're still allowed to bypass all the laws that the United States government has in place to protect the environment, Native American freedom of religion, endangered species. There's just so many laws that this foreign mining company, Resolution Copper, which is a part of Rio Tinto and Max Planck. They want to, or I'm sorry, they are, let me back up. So, in 2015, President Obama, he has to sign a military spending bill. Now, in that bill, which funds the United States military, in that bill, John McCain, he had slipped in a midnight rider. Now, on that midnight rider, it gave our holy place, where we have ceremony, Oak Flat, to the foreign mining company, Resolution Copper. Now, fast forward, we're in 2019. What we've done as a people, as a community, is we've occupied the land. We march every year off the reservation. We march off the reservation to let people know that this is a part of our traditional homelands. We have petroglyphs there. We have everything that we can sustain life at Oak Flat. There's water, there's plants, there's animals. There's so many things that the land provides, not just the copper. Resolution copper is going in, it's taking out this copper. Eventually it will be a huge sinkhole. And what we're trying to do is preserve this area so not only my daughter, but future generations can have this area. Within the next year is going to be vital. It's very important that we spread that awareness so people know what's happening. There's this bigger picture in the state of Arizona where all the water has been rerouted and the aquifers have been, they've depleted the aquifers, and we live in the desert. This is, Phoenix metropolitan area, and we're going to run out of water. And there's a lot of people that don't understand that, because it doesn't, anything that we do or anything on this issue does not hit mainstream media. So there's reasons why it's hidden. So there's a lot of things that we try to do as a community and as a people is to wake up our own people and the community, because where they want to put the tailings for this mine, all their toxic waste they want to put just outside of Gold Canyon, which is not very far. And if you live in the Phoenix area, we get these huge haboobs where there's this huge cloud of dust that rolls through it. It brings up all that air and all that toxin, and it's just going to spread. And what they've done with the water is they're taking all the natural water from the aquifers and they're using it in the mine, and then they're going to take it all the way to a water treatment plant and then bring it back and then water the fields. So it's not the pure water, they're destroying our whole water source. And we might not feel it, I might not feel it in my lifetime, but my children will see it. So everything that we're doing as a people and as a family is to wake up our young people. We want to try to give them, save what little we have left for them. And so that's my journey. That's what I strive to do, not only for my kids, but for all the youth that I work with. And there's this bigger picture that hides the truth. And within my own community and within my own family, I need to make sure that I voice the truth. That way, if I spark that interest, that they can learn more. That's my journey. So that's my life's work. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you for your extremely informative talk. I think a lot of us have no idea about the extent of what's going on here at Oak Flat. We've heard things just here in this country. and especially people overseas. These kinds of things going on in so many different countries in so many different places, and people don't understand the situation with water. And the water, even in downtown LA, the fracking companies, they were bringing up the poison water, and I kind of made a joke where they didn't know what to do with it. They could put it on the playgrounds where the kids are. And people in downtown LA, and one of the guys said to me, yeah, it's been done.
Right.
So it's like people don't really realize what the commercial and the values are. So it was really helpful to hear what you're saying. It's a privilege to be here and to be able to support what you're doing and the community. And we really need other people to wake up to what the future holds. I had one thought with your daughter. How old is the sun was it sun ceremony? How old are the girls?
Well, it depends. It's when you become a woman.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
yeah. So my daughter's 9. I was 11 when that happened to me, so hopefully, within the next 2 years, hopefully I'm still there. But yeah, she'll have her ceremony whenever the Creator blesses her with it.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you very, very much. Thank you for sharing.
Yes, thank you.
I have a question. In your work with the urban youth, how do you see the difference between Native Americans growing up in urban Phoenix and Native Americans growing up in a rural reservation such as San Carlos?
Well, there's, I think there's a lot of differences. So when you grow up on the reservation, you grow up with a different mentality. And that mentality being that, so just for example, so when I went to school, we didn't have a high school. We didn't have our own high school. And we had to ride the bus from the reservation, off the reservation, which was 30 minutes both ways. But not only that, we had to catch the bus at 6 o'clock in the morning. So school didn't start till 8. So we're there extremely early. And then we have to catch the bus going home, right? So we're not home until 6 o'clock at night. So in order to get an education, you're leaving the reservation and you're going to a border town where you're reminded every day that you're native, that you're not at the same level as the other people. So there's that. When you grow up in an urban setting, in metropolitan areas, a lot of times there's not a lot of native people there either. But then you lose a lot of your ceremonies. So if you grow up on the reservation, we have ceremonies all the time that you can participate in, that you can be a part of. In an urban setting, those opportunities are very small, unless your family's always traveling home and going back to the reservation. So what we found is that a lot of the young people that are in an urban setting are kind of confused with who they are. They know that they're Native American. A lot of times they know what tribe they come from. Some of them, if the tribe has clans, they're not quite sure what their clans are. They're not getting that everyday teaching from maybe the grandparents who are back home on the reservation. So that's what I found. There's good and bad everywhere, but I believe that culture and identity, if we give them a strong sense of who they are, then that's going to help. That's definitely going to help. And culturally, even on the reservation, if you go to any reservation, there is every denomination you can think of. We have everything. We have Christians, we have Catholics, we have Episcopalians, we have Mormons. There's so many different denominations. And it's easier to have that confusion. And the reason why there's so many denominations there is because they were trying to save our people. They had the mentality that our cultural ceremonies were not the right way. So, there's that constant striving to find out who we are as people. So that's, the similarities, but there are a lot of differences as well.
And your youth program, is there an exclusion if people are too old, or you kind of welcome people if they want to come to the meetings?
I welcome families. So, for the purposes of the grants that I work on, my demographic is 11 to 24 years old. But, I would never turn anybody away. And I think that family support, if you come in a family, that's what's needed. I'm a firm believer in the community raises the family, not just the parents. It takes all the aunties and the uncles and the cousins and everyone to come together, for young people to have that support system.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Do you have any questions on Skype? Anybody?
Can I just a small question?
Yes, Tahira?
Hello? Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Tahira.
Hello? Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. I really like the way you spoke with the kids. The way you're very proud of your family, and we are very, very proud of you as a woman. The question I have is, in Phoenix, a lot of people from New York and other places, retirees, they retire to Phoenix because it's a sun city and they need the sun for themselves. I've been to Phoenix myself and I've been to your camps, reservation camps. And so what I'm saying is that having an effect on urbanization and the way the whole thing is changing, because it's becoming an old city where more and more retirees are coming because its land is cheap and it's very sunny, everything. So I think they really enjoy it and they have the money. And is that money also destroying your culture? Thank you.
Is the money from the copper destroying the culture, from the mining? Is money from the industries such as the copper mining, is that destroying the culture?
Yes.
Yes,
Most
it is.
definitely.
In which way?
So in this situation, I guess the plainest example I can say is right now at Oak Flat we have ceremony. We have our sunrise dance ceremony. We have our holy ground ceremonies. What the copper mine is doing, it's going to destroy the whole area where we have ceremony. And when that happens, that next generation, who in this example is my daughter, will lose that if we don't make change now, if we don't affect change now. There's this bigger, broader picture that feels that it's way more important to have copper and money than it is for ceremony and culture and identity. And that's where we're at right now. Now, the United States government, there's a lot of laws that are set in place to protect our religion, to protect the land, the environment. There's all these laws that are put in place, but it's our very own congressional leaders that are bypassing these laws for the money, for the copper, for the greed, for the votes, all these different factors. And it's a corrupt cycle. So they've created this loophole to bypass their very own laws for the money. And it affects our culture and our identity and the future for our children.
What is the suicide rate if you compare the urban and rural communities, Native American? Does it go in clusters? What's the remedy to stop this?
So the suicide rate across the United States on ethnicity, overall it has a downward trend. But for Native American populations, whether they be reservation or urban setting, it's on the rise. So there's so many different factors that relate to the issue. And there's a lot of different resources that are available. But in the program that I facilitate, I'm going after the angle that I take is that culture and identity will save our people. It will save the future of our young people. Because right now, our young people are lost. Not all of them, but a good majority of them, especially the ones in the urban setting that I work with. They have a disconnect with their communities. They have a disconnect with who they are. And what we're trying to do as a program is to give that back to them, give them that strong sense of who they are and that pride. We want to empower our young people. We want them to know that for them to be here is a miracle. So, the United States had policies of extermination. The United States, ethnic cleansing, genocide. There's so many different things that they did to try to eliminate our indigenous people and our culture and our ceremonies. There's so many different things that they did. And it has affected our young people. So they're a result of that trauma, historical trauma, generational trauma that has come down. When you think of life in general, what we strive for, a lot of the families are trying to just satisfy those basic needs of shelter and providing food for their families. And there's a lot of things that we can't really change. But what we can do as a community and as a people is to revitalize our culture and identity and let these young people know for them to be here and for their bloodlines to still be here is amazing. That they're our gift, and it's time for us to revitalize them. It's time to wake up our young people and let them know they're the future of our communities.
Thank you very much, Lian. It's very informative. Thank you. We're proud of you.
Thank you.